Tonight, we look into a discovery in Bosnia, which the likes of National Geographic had once described as a cruel hoax. Have pyramids that are over 12,000 years old been discovered in Europe? Do we have mainstream archaeologists so desperate to dismiss the find that they'll tell you they're just unusual rock formations? All carved by natural forces rather than anything else? Can we really dismiss the underground tunnel network as just a series of mines from more recent history? Are all these doubters all complicit in covering up evidence which shows previous civilizations were more advanced than we ever suspected? They wouldn't do that, would they? Let's find out as we go on the edge. Hello, I'm Alex G and welcome to On the Edge. Tonight, for the first time, broadcasting to the world. As we are live, it's your chance to interact with us and tell us what you think. And here's Glenda to tell you how.
Text 86686, then text EDGE, leave a space, and then your message. And don't forget, standard network charges apply, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
My guests tonight have joined us from various corners of the world. I have researcher and volunteer Nigel Grace and Sara Acconci,
yes,
who is the head archaeologist of the Bosnian Foundation of the Valley of the Pyramids. And they're going to give us the latest fascinating discoveries and research on this topic. Now, I should say, Nigel, obviously, we've immediately got Sara's credentials there, and thank you very much for joining us all the way from Bosnia today. But Nigel, what's your background? How did you become aware of the Bosnian pyramids?
Well, I started up as a graduate of sociology, but I soon became fascinated with the psychology of human consciousness and how humanity is developed in terms of our conscious ability. I became a teacher of meditation, and I'm currently working in the field of computer science. I became aware of the Bosnian pyramids through that wonderful channel called YouTube.
Right.
And I watched an interview of the person who discovered the pyramids, and I was fascinated from the moment I watched it.
Now, Sara, that brings us on to ask the question, where exactly are these pyramids and who indeed did discover them?
Yeah, well, the pyramids are in Visoko. It's a small town 20 kilometers from Sarajevo. And Semir Osmanagic is the person who discovered the pyramids in 2005.
And he's known as Sam to his friends, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, he changed his name when he went to live in Texas.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because nobody could pronounce Semir Osmanagic, so he decided to
Well, don't worry about that. I shall certainly be calling him Sam throughout the programme.
Yeah, so Sam for friends. And, well, in 2005, he discovered the pyramids, and they started to excavate in 2006.
Right.
So now it's 5 years that we are going on with these researches, and well, I hope we will go on for a lot of other years.
And I think we've got an image to sort of kick us off. We've got lots of images this evening.
Yeah.
And the first one is number 147, which I note is a snooker score of great deliberation. So here we have that image up for our viewers. So describe what they're seeing there.
Well, this is the valley, Visoko Valley of the pyramids. And, well, when they started in 2005 to make the researches, they were working with a georadar. And they discovered that actually in Visoko we have more than one anomaly. So we're not speaking about one pyramid, but more than one.
Goodness.
So they saw that there are 5 anomalies, so 5 different pyramids. But the main pyramids are the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and the Pyramid of the Dragon.
Right.
And there is a very important connection between these 3 pyramids, because actually they are creating an equilateral triangle.
Right.
So,
and that's a genuine, fully geometric triangle.
2.2 kilometers for
on
it's
each
the
side.
distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, they started to make some researches on the Pyramid of the Sun and on the Pyramid of the Moon for different reasons. Because first of all, as you know, in Bosnia we had a war.
Yeah, yes.
So it's we have to be very careful when we are working in field job. So we started to work on the Pyramid of the Sun and Pyramid of the Moon, and actually we really found something. We really found evidence that we have something handmade.
And it's perhaps interesting to sort of actually get a mainstream view of this. And this is a quote from, I'm tempted to say learned journal, National Geographic, but we shall see how they fare throughout the rest of the show. And this is again from sort of around the 2005-2006 time. So, and they basically say, he's been called a Balkan Indiana Jones. Others label him a dreamer, or worse, a pyramid buff with loony ideas. Despite his critics, and he has many, Samir Sam Osmanagic believes he's discovered the find of a lifetime, a series of ancient pyramids in the heart of Bosnia. Prominent Bosnian archaeologists entered the scrum early on, denouncing the dig and lobbying to shut it down. Anthony Harding, president of the Czech Republic-based European Association of Archaeologists, has dismissed Osmanagic's ideas as wacky and absurd. Garrett Fagan of Pennsylvania State University in University Park has slammed the project. He says that the dig will destroy bona fide archaeological sites in the area. So, in effect, Nigel, what they seem to be saying is you're destroying archaeology by going after the archaeology.
Yes, a conundrum indeed.
So immediately, when people start researching this online, they will find this extremely negative attitude to the whole scenario, and it's something we'll develop over the programme. But you were part of a team of 11 people from England who just spent a week at the pyramids. So what sort of people become involved with going there and getting their hands dirty, as it were?
Well, the most wonderful thing is that there's an opportunity for volunteers. And this is people from any walk of life, any age, within reason, can come and work as volunteers, as I did. And I'd like to show picture 108 when that comes up.
Right.
This is me working on the dig, on the archaeological site.
And there we have you there, yeah.
I was very happy there. The interesting thing is that this group of 11 that you refer to, is, they're a group who came as a result of a talk that I gave after I returned from my shift as a volunteer. And these people were so amazed with what I was talking about, with my experiences, that they said, Nigel, we want to come out. So I arranged, so I was kind of a ringleader, and Sara was there to greet us. And we spent a week just observing, experiencing, watching, and travelling all over the sites.
And Bosnia really isn't sort of a known holiday destination, so was it very difficult arranging transportation?
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all, except that I must say that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a beautiful country.
Well, I'm sure the tourist board will have you in their employ before very long. So, Sara, we've heard how many pyramids there are. I mean, what's the scale of them? How big are we talking compared to the sort of Egyptian pyramids that people are aware of?
Well, we are talking about the biggest pyramids in the world, because the Pyramid of the Sun is minimum 220 meters.
Okay.
We didn't discover the bottom yet, so it can be even more.
It might be taller than that. And I mean, just to give people perspective, the Great Pyramid of Egypt measures 147 metres.
Exactly.
So,
plus, the Pyramid of the Moon is 180 meters.
So that one's even bigger than...
Yeah, so the smaller one in Visoko is bigger than the one in the biggest in Egypt.
So, Great Pyramid of Egypt relegated to a poor third already, so that's intriguing. Nigel, in terms of a pyramid's orientation, what's special about that? How is it lined up?
Well, the first thing I heard, that it was correctly orientated towards the cardinal points. Right. So I checked into that, and I found that the Geodetic Institute of Bosnia and Herzegovina had found, through research and also through satellite images, that they found that it was actually orientated so extremely accurately towards the cosmic north, even more than Cheops's pyramid. In fact, Cheops's pyramid being 0 degrees and 21 minutes deviation or error towards the cosmic north. This structure, the north face, is 0 degrees, 0 minutes and 12 seconds deviation, which is almost perfectly oriented.
Not far out at all, really.
Indeed.
So let's now start going through the catalogue of images that we've got. If we start with image 101, right at the top of the shot. Sara, in terms of how the pyramid is constructed, these pyramids, what are we looking at here in terms of what people are seeing on the screen now?
Yeah, here we are in front of the Pyramid of the Sun.
Yeah.
Well, we have to underline that actually in Visoko we have different kind of pyramids.
Right.
So the Pyramid of the Sun seems to be a natural hill modified, shaped by human hand as a pyramid.
Right.
So we don't know yet. We don't have enough evidence, but it seems to be like this. And all the surface of the pyramid is covered with these concrete blocks.
Right.
So here we are just looking for these concrete blocks. As you can see, we have flat sides. Yep. And it's something that actually you cannot find in nature because we are speaking about rectangular blocks. So a lot of geologists are telling us that it's natural material, and actually it's natural material. We are speaking about stone, clay, sand, calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate. But all this material were put it together in order to create these concrete blocks. And these concrete blocks are 5 times stronger than our concrete.
Goodness.
So, yeah, so it's a very good job, actually. They did a very good job. And all the surface of the pyramid is covered with these concrete blocks.
So it'd be worth various people in the construction industry getting involved in this to see how this was actually done. Goodness me. And for those who like their figures, we're talking about 133 megapascals of hardness in terms of this. So the engineers out there will probably have just sort of dropped their beer with us saying that there.
Well, Alex, one way to visualise that is that the pyramid is covered with trees and shrubbery, and the roots from the trees naturally will go through rock.
Right.
Especially the cedar trees, but not through this concrete.
Yeah.
Now, just before the break, Sara, I think it's worth sort of stating that you've actually put your career on the line by getting involved in this project, because I believe your professor actually said categorically...
Yeah, not only on the line, actually destroyed my career before even starting.
Goodness me.
Yeah, because the scientific community is against the project. So, just to summarize everything, they told me you will never be able to find a job as an archaeologist anymore. So, I started as a volunteer like Nigel. Yeah. Last summer, I really wanted to go to excavate the pyramids. And I didn't have a good answer from my professors.
Right. So effectively, you have been what we would describe as being blackballed by your very peers, if you like.
Well, when I was a volunteer, I had to come back to Italy in order to obtain my second graduation.
Because you're actually Italian.
Yeah, I'm Italian. Even if I'm living
the expressions are starting. That's excellent. That's
in
excellent.
my hands, you can see. But, when I came back to Italy, my professor asked me, okay, what did you do this summer? And I said, well, I was excavating the biggest and oldest pyramid in the world. And she told me, it's better if you will not speak about it because you will never obtain your second graduation.
Good Lord.
So that's what I did. So I asked them why, and they told me, well, we should rewrite history, and we should admit that we are not the most advanced civilization ever. So that's the reason
And that's
why.
telling you categorically why you shouldn't be involved.
Yeah, they were pretty clear. So I just decided to play their game. And when I obtained my second graduation, I told everybody, thank you so much, because with this piece of paper, I can go in Bosnia and excavate the biggest pyramid in the world. And everybody was...
Yes, bide your time before cutting the links, basically.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. But I think this is one of the things, it's quite incredible to hear someone say that you actually have the scientific community on this basis saying, we know there's something in this.
Yeah, well, they never told me exactly, okay, we know there is something. They told me maybe there is something. But the thing that I would like to underline is that actually 99% of the scientists I know, they never been in Visoko. So actually, how can they judge something if they never been in Visoko?
So without sight, they're deciding how it's going to be. So all I need to say to you out there is keep the texts coming in on 86686. That's 86686. Don't forget, you need to start your text with the word edge, E-D-G-E. Leave a space, then let's have your message and name. And Glenda will get around to some of those after this break. Welcome back to On the Edge. You've been madly texting, and we are madly going to hear from Glenda what you've been saying.
One viewer is saying, I believe we're not being told a very large part of history. If we knew the real purpose of us being on this planet, we would not believe it. Another viewer has said, why won't mainstream academia ever accept anything that does not fit in with the status quo? They don't know everything. Another viewer has texted in, we have been on this planet for many hundreds of thousands of years, become civilized and then pushed back into chaos. And John from Cornwall is asking, do these pyramids align with any other ancient sites or major cities? And another viewer has asked, have you found any writings on the walls?
Right, there's three good ones there. So, I mean, Sara, taking up again the bit between the teeth in terms of the mainstream academia and their attitude towards the status quo. Did it shock you when you were told that point blank?
Yeah, I actually was very, very shocked since I started to go to university. Because I was reading a lot. I decided to become an archaeologist when I was very young. So I started to read a lot of books, and I could see that there was something wrong, because I was reading books with evidence, with pictures, with artifacts, and they were called alternative archaeology, alternative history. But, you know, I was not going to university, so I was thinking, okay, maybe just because you're not inside. So when I started to go to university, I simply realized that actually it was considered alternative history and nobody was speaking about these new discoveries.
Right.
So I was very excited when I started to go to university, because for me it was the center of the culture, and I was so ready to be like a sponge to learn everything and to try to exchange ideas and theories. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't even speak with almost all my professors, because they were telling me, okay, it's written like this, so it has to be like this.
This is the way it's going to be, and that's the end of it.
So actually what they're trying to do is just to rewrite the same things they've already written years and years ago. And it's stupid, because science is based on hypotheses, especially archaeology. We're not living in these periods. We are just trying to read something very, very ancient with the eyes of the modern man. So it's impossible to have a final answer. So you should be prepared to rewrite every time, not because they were stupid, just because they had some evidence, and now we have new ones. So maybe it's a problem for them to admit that we don't know. That's the biggest problem.
If this was a detective show, new evidence would come to light, and you'd have a new suspect. But basically, they've already made their mind up who the killer is, and that's the end of it, isn't it? Really? So the other question there was about these pyramids and whether there was an alignment with other major sites. So I'm assuming they're talking about Peru, Egypt and so forth. There certainly seems to be an amazing pattern with those particular bodies. Have we got the Bosnian pyramids in that matrix, if you like?
Well, first of all, there's recently been a research on the interrelationship of the pyramids within the valley.
Yeah.
And as Sara mentioned, there's a perfect equilateral triangle between 3 of the pyramids. But when you extend this and look more deeply, you'll also find that the other pyramids and the entrances to the tunnels also are in alignment. For example, if you take a circle perfectly around that equilateral triangle, it touches the points exactly of the other structures and the entrances to the tunnels.
So, Sara, in terms of the global picture, is there research going on as to how it fits in?
We're making some researches about it. There is a volunteer, Richard, he's a student of geology, and he came in Visoko last summer and again this summer, and he's helping us so much in order to go on with these researches, because we archaeologists cannot do everything alone. We need other sciences.
And it almost brings me on to the question concerning physicists, because, again, doing the research on the show, I noticed that a team of physicists have been working at the Pyramid of the Sun, and what was their find? What was it that they found out?
Well, this was the most significant result for me that absolutely made me feel that this is fantastic. Between the months of April and June 2010, some physicists measured or detected electromagnetic radiation in the range of ultrasound right at the top of the Pyramid of the Sun. And they actually found that the readings throughout that period, those 3-4 months, were consistent. And what they found was a beam of energy about 4.5 meters broad, emerging from the top of the pyramid. Now, the interesting thing is that this was above our hearing, because it was an ultrasound. But the remarkable thing is that as this energy beam moved up from the pyramid, it was moving at the speed not of sound, but of light. And they also found that the strength of the energy was greater according to its altitude. So
that's almost like a flame. Right at the base of the flame, it's fairly warm, but it's only further up that it's really, really hot. So it's that sort of basis then?
Well, we could say that our conventional understanding of physics is that the strength of an energy beam will decrease over a length or a period or duration. This appears to be increasing, which is actually a contradiction of our understanding of modern physics, or, which is perhaps more difficult to accept, is that there's an energy source above the pyramid moving down. But if we were to take the understanding that it's coming...
You're now going into, what, outer space on this?
Well, both explanations are difficult to accept. But what I would suggest is that Nikola Tesla, for example, who was talking about non-Hertzian technology, perhaps could it be that this might be an incident that actually proves that he was right?
Goodness me. Goodness me. I want to take the final question of note from what we had comments-wise just now, and that was writing on the walls. Has there been writing on the walls? So we cue
112, please.
112 is the one we're looking at.
Now this, of course, I'd like to refer to here because we found this in our volunteer shift. There are, of course, when I speak to Sara, she would say, as an archaeologist, that because these tunnels were already open, they're not sealed when we came in, we can't determine exactly that the writings weren't put on later. But as a volunteer, we on several occasions found stones and rocks with markings, rather like this picture shows. We also found markings that could possibly be runes.
Now, what do you mean by runes?
A rune is an incident of ancient language.
Okay.
And as a part of our team of 11, Lorraine came as our team, and she is a researcher in runes. And she found whether the date that the runes were placed was at the time that the tunnels were built or not. She found evidence to suggest that there was runic writing.
Goodness me. Okay, well, shall we start whisking through a few images, because we have loads of these, and we don't want to sort of save them all for later, as it were. So we've spoken about the volunteers, so I'll preempt 102 as the next image. So what we have with 102, there we are. That's just some of the volunteers on the recent dig, I take it.
Yes, yes. And as that was part of my team, I was taking the photograph. And I just want to say, relating to the text that we have about the ancient or originations of humanity, that in this labyrinth of tunnels which connects the pyramid, that we were, essentially our job was to pull out or remove filling.
Right.
Because these tunnels had been filled for some inexplicable reason thousands of years ago after they had been built.
Right.
And the feeling is in there, there's a very ancient feeling of great silence and also a feeling of healing.
I mean, is that genuine? I mean, that's not something that science can measure, is it? That's your inner feeling.
Somehow it can be measured.
It can be.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I told you before, archaeologists cannot do everything. So when I went in Visoko for the first time last summer, I had the chance to meet a doctor anthropologist, Italian doctor anthropologist, and we decided to create a group, research group, Italian research group, and we started to try to search the way in order to understand with a scientific methodology how is it possible that everybody feels so great inside the tunnels.
Right.
And we knew before, because Foundation in 2007 took some samples of air inside the tunnels, and we discovered that there are a lot of negative ions inside the tunnels. So we tried to work with these negative ions, and actually negative ions can stimulate endorphins in our body. And everybody knows that endorphins are helping us in order to feel great. When we are doing sports, we are stimulating endorphins. So it can be proven, even with the common science, the proven science. Yeah.
Okay. Again, let's get back to the pictures. And 103 gives us another perspective, because we obviously want to get people sort of an idea of the scale of what we're talking about here. So, Nigel, can you describe what we have here?
This is on the side of the Pyramid of the Sun.
Okay.
And what we're looking at are slabs of material that Sara has just described a little earlier as artificial concrete.
Right. This is the extremely hard concrete.
Now, the remarkable thing, there's our guide standing there, the Bosnian guide, and he's actually at this moment, when I took this picture, describing that there are several layers of this concrete, usually found in layers of 2 or 4 deep.
Right.
Then a layer of clay, then another layer or 2 to 4 layers of these slabs, which actually build up step by step or layer by layer the outside of the pyramid.
I've got a quote here from Science, the journal, from 22nd of September 2006. Again, it doesn't seem to be that they've spoken much, if at all, about it since then. But this is what they said. So obviously we'd like to gauge your reaction here. Stefan Koric, a Bosnian geologist at the University of Vienna, Austria, who was invited by Sam Osmanagic to examine the site, he said the stone slabs are nothing more than fractured chunks of sediment called breccia the remains of a 7-million-year-old lake bed that was thrust up by natural forces. This is what gives the mound its angular shape, Corrich says. As for the tunnels, if they were made by humans without establishing their age, I would assume they are part of an old mine. Anthony Harding of Exeter University's verdict was, it's just a hill. Now, this seems quite categoric that academia are saying there is nothing to see here, move along.
Indeed, that they might wish us to do that.
And again, while we're throwing mud, if you excuse the pun, Wikipedia describes our man Sam as an author and metal worker. And also from Wikipedia, the dig began in April 2006 and has involved reshaping the hill to make it look like a Mayan step pyramid. So effectively they're saying you guys are manufacturing the evidence by your digs.
Yeah. Every day we're trying to build a
Okay.
May we look at slide 110?
110, okay. There it is. You see the magic fingers are getting to these really quickly. So there it is on screen. So this is the Pyramid of the Sun?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the Pyramid of the Sun, and as you can see, we have this triangular face of the pyramid, and yeah, we are building this pyramid. In 6 years, we created 220 meters of pyramid.
Well, it's nice of you to admit that, but I'm sure that's not what you really mean.
Not at all. Well, I'm just laughing because unfortunately not everybody knows that everybody can write on Wikipedia. So...
But Nigel, you were saying, didn't you try and get in on Wikipedia's page for the Bosnian Pyramids and actually try and amend it a little?
I was not successful. I couldn't get permission to edit.
Yeah, I tried to do the same and I couldn't get permission.
So that's that. The story is set in stone, again, if you excuse the pun, and Wikipedia won't let anyone actually near it.
I would like to comment on the quote about these slabs. If we're to move to picture 106.
106.
You have a guest appearance of my hand.
Oh, there's Nigel's hand. And what's that line there then?
What I'm pointing out here, that I was actually astonished to find these veins or lines of crystal in the material, in this concrete.
And we will find out more about that after this short break. Please remember, text in on 86686, that's 86686, type the word EDGE, E-D-G-E, leave a space and give us your name and message. And we'll be back after this break. Welcome back to On the Edge, and you've been madly overworking Glenda with your texts. Glenda, a summary, please.
Yeah, my wrists are really aching here. Right. Lots of really interesting points being raised, Alex. One viewer is asking, have your guests managed to engage the help of any mainstream academics? And is there anything written in print? In other words, have there been anything published about the research that's been discovered here? And another viewer has asked, what do you think the significance of the pyramid is? I've had several viewers asking similar questions about the alignments of the pyramids. Doug from Glastonbury has asked, what position on the equatorial plane is it in relation to the Egyptian pyramids? Another viewer has asked, are your guests aware of the Ratanj, I think that's how you pronounce it, Ratanj pyramids in Serbia? Also, is the pyramid of the dragon of more significance? And several viewers have asked about the alignments of the pyramids with any of the star constellations. And a few comments. One has said that they are holding the world back. How dare they? And finally, another comment in Italian. So here goes my best Italian accent. Una bravissima ragazza, finalmente. A chance to rewrite history.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you so much.
So I mean, our learned people out there mentioned that there of the Ratanj pyramids in Serbia. Someone actually sort of emailed me just a couple of days ago about these. on your radar yet, by any chance?
Not yet.
No, so it may be that Serbia is going to get a piece of the action. We shall see in due course. Mainstream academics, has there been anyone known in this area who has actually shown any support?
No, not now. Well, somebody came in 2006. I was not in Bosnia because I started to work last summer.
Yeah.
But since I work for foundation, nobody showed up. And I'm alone. I'm constantly trying to ask them to come because I don't want to work alone.
No, sure.
I need geologists, archaeologists, and nobody wants to come. I think the main problem is that, well, as I told you before, my career is ruined. So a lot of people, I know a lot of students of archaeology, and well, they don't want to come in Visoko because they will not be able to finish their university. So that's the problem.
So basically, you will be tarred with the same brush if you get involved, and everyone's keeping their distance for the sake of their jobs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know a lot of people, even in Italy. Actually, in the last year, something is changing because I'm trying to communicate a lot. I'm writing a lot of things, and we created this research group. So a lot of things are changing, but everybody is scared to come. So I don't know what to do because I'm not afraid. I'm here to tell you what's really happening. But a lot of people are afraid to lose their jobs, and I can understand that. It's not easy.
I think our viewers will very much appreciate what you're doing, and there are various cases that we've brought up on the edge in recent weeks of people who have been intimidated or blackballed or put out of the picture because of them standing by their beliefs. And the common thread seems to be that these people who are disowning have never studied any of the evidence at all, or indeed have been to the scene of the crime, as it would be in this case.
That's why I'm really upset, because if you consider yourself as a scientist, how can you judge something if you don't know what you're speaking about? So it's very sad, because if it's the so-called science, that's a very bad thing.
It's quite incredible, and I think it's one of these eye-opening things, and it resonates with so many topics that we've covered on the edge, from the architects and engineers who look at 9/11 and look at the Twin Towers and immediately go, not a chance. Not a chance if the official story is correct. So here we have a partner in terms of subject matter, I think. Nigel, books. Is there anything written yet that people can sort of get hold of to get more of a story yet?
There are two books written by the doctor who discovered it, Sam. One is called the Bosnian. One is called A History of Pyramids Around the World. That's the latest one. And that gives actually a very good overview of, perhaps, as Sara was mentioning, the alternative view of the discoveries of many pyramids around the world. And the last two chapters is devoted to the Bosnian pyramids.
Right, excellent stuff then. So, well worth seeking out. Generic question there, the significance of the pyramids. How will it rewrite history if these are what they purport to be?
Well, I can speak from an archaeological point of view. Actually, for me, it's very, very hard to date the structures, because in archaeology, you can date the archaeological sites with the artifacts or with the structures. We are finding very, very few artifacts, and they are unique, so you cannot compare them with anything. And for the structures, we have a lot of structures, obviously man-made, but they are unique too. So I cannot compare them with anything. So I can date because of geology. So they told us that the soil, the layers on the surface of the Pyramid of the Sun goes from 12,000 till 14,000 years old.
BC?
Yeah.
So, or back in time?
Yeah, back in time.
Yeah.
So The problem is that for archaeology, for our history, in that period we didn't have anything in this area. So we can come back with the Illyrians, but before Illyrians we don't know anything. So that's the reason why we should rewrite anything, because even if it's 12,000 years old, who could build something like this? We cannot do that.
And in terms of, I mean, immediately people are going to think of the term carbon dating. I mean, is there anything that this can be applied to, which will help solve the mystery?
Yeah, the carbon dating methodology is very, very helpful. The problem is that inside the tunnel and on the Pyramid of the Sun, we're not finding organic material that can be used in order to date the layers. So, for the Pyramid of the Moon, last summer we discovered a piece of organic material in between the clay layer and the sandstone layer.
Right.
So we took this sample and we received the results of the analysis in the beginning of this summer.
Right.
And it's 10,350 years old.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
over
it's
10,000 years old. So we're talking about a period in history which has been fairly well mapped out to say that the materials used in the build didn't exist at that time. And the academic reaction to that, in general, yourself aside, is so?
Exactly. They simply don't speak about it. And since I became the lead archaeologist of Foundation, it seems that all my rights to speak about my job simply disappeared. So I cannot show the pictures, I cannot do anything, I cannot speak. I'm just crazy.
I think a friend of the show, Ian R. Crane, would describe it as institutional denial. That it's far easier to keep the blinkers on than actually try and tackle this, which is the picture that's emerging from there. Nigel, in terms of alignments, talking about the equatorial plane, does it line up with Egypt? And we also have the aspect of star constellations. Is there something stellar out there that this all links into?
I think there is. Our researcher, geologist Richard, that we can hopefully bring onto the show sometime soon, has found some remarkable similarities.
Right.
Even perhaps we've learnt about pyramids on Mars, for example, that there is a similar arrangement between the two.
Blimey.
But I don't have the research at hand on that.
No, sure. Well, if we go back to image 106, which you were just talking about before the break, your hand making a special guest appearance there on 106. So you were mentioning that these lines within that material, you consider that very odd?
There are perfectly parallel seams of a white substance going across these rectangular blocks of material. Yeah. And when we look at it closely, we find it's quartz crystal. There are also areas around where my wrist is on the photograph where a part of the block has broken open or just broken due to actually the local villagers dynamiting it to build their homes of it. And we find that when we look at it on the side, we find almost like this crystal, thin crystal layer has been pasted on, put together and perfectly fused to join these blocks together.
So what you're saying is this could not be a natural phenomenon, which I'd imagine from the tone of what we've heard so far from the conventional academics is how they would say, well, that just happens to be one of these most amazing things that happens.
Due to the regularity and parallel patterning of these seams, it would appear that nature wouldn't produce it in such regularity and parallel.
Plus, I would like to add another thing, because I am not trying to convince anybody. So if some geologists want to come in Visoko and to show me that, to prove me that it's natural, for me it's okay. But the point is that every time I'm asking to show me something similar, they cannot give me anything, any proof. Plus, if it's the first time we are in front of a natural layer like this, why no geologists are coming in Bosnia to study this first natural layer like this? So anyway, there is ignorance.
That's crazy stuff. I'd like to queue up image 109, if I could. Now, if we could just sort of run through this in terms of what that is there. What are people seeing there, Sara?
Well, this is the Pyramid of the Moon.
Okay, so this is number 2 in the hit parade in terms of size.
Yeah, exactly, number 2. So we are in front of a totally different structure, because actually on the Pyramid of the Moon we can find terraces. So we can find clay and sandstone layers, and it goes on from the bottom till the top, and it seems to be like a spiral road that goes from the bottom till the top. And we can find this inclination of 8 degrees all around this spiral road. Yeah. So totally different structures, but even this one is amazing. And we wrote some pictures with the pavement terraces we can find. We have number 143, if it's
143.
possible, and 144.
So if we go for 143 first, now effectively, Nigel, while we're just queuing that up and where we have it there, we were speaking about the fact that these underground tunnels are being described as mines. So, I mean, in about a minute, can you sort of describe to me why that might be a little bit off beam?
50 metres into a mine, coal mine, you wouldn't be able to breathe unless there was artificial oxygen being injected into the mine. I was working 300 to 350 metres inside these tunnels, and there's perfect, fresh, cool air at a constant 11 degrees Celsius. In addition to that, there is no actual material that was there to be mined. And I would say that the experience as a teacher of meditation for 20 years is that just to be in these tunnels is to experience a profound sense of peace, equanimity and tranquility.
Which doesn't seem to ordinarily go with mines and mine shafts. But
Indeed.
So moving back to 143, conscious of the time. So in terms of what we've got there, again, these particular artifacts, I suppose we could call them, seem remarkably angular for something that's been naturally produced.
It cannot be natural at all. That's one of the terraces of the Pyramid of the Moon. And all the terraces are different from each other. So in this case, we have small slabs, but as you can see, we have 90 degrees angles, corners. So it's something that you cannot find in nature. It's obviously something created by somebody.
Yeah, definitely. There is an element to there which is effectively man-made. And I should just say now, don't forget to spread the word about subscribing to Edge Media Online so that people receive it on any compatible computer around the world, local censorship willing. Get them to find out more at www.edgemediatv.com. Subscribers will have access to more exclusive features as they come live. And so now, I should just like to thank my 2 guests, Sara Acconci and Nigel Grace, for joining me this evening. And that is the conclusion of this week's episode of On the Edge. And we really now are under the radar and around the world. Tonight, we look into a discovery in Bosnia, which the likes of National Geographic had once described as a cruel hoax. Have pyramids that are over 12,000 years old been discovered in Europe? Do we have mainstream archaeologists so desperate to dismiss the find that they'll tell you they're just unusual rock formations? All carved by natural forces rather than anything else? Can we really dismiss the underground tunnel network as just a series of mines from more recent history? Are all these doubters all complicit in covering up evidence which shows previous civilizations were more advanced than we ever suspected? They wouldn't do that, would they? Let's find out as we go on the edge.
Well, I started up as a graduate of sociology, but I soon became fascinated with the psychology of human consciousness and how humanity is developed in terms of our conscious ability. I became a teacher of meditation, and I'm currently working in the field of computer science. I became aware of the Bosnian Pyramids through that wonderful channel called YouTube.
Right.
And I watched an interview of the person who discovered the pyramids, and I was fascinated from the moment I watched it.
Now, Sara, that brings us on to ask the question, where exactly are these pyramids and who indeed did discover them?
Yeah, well, the pyramids are in Visoko. It's a small town 20 kilometers from Sarajevo. And Samir Osmanagic is the person who discovered the pyramids in 2005.
And he's known as Sam to his friends, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, he changed his name when he went to live in Texas.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because nobody could pronounce Samir Osmanagic, so he decided to
Well,
change it.
don't worry about that. I shall certainly be calling him Sam throughout the programme.
Yeah, so Sam for friends. And, well, in 2005, he discovered the pyramids, and they started to excavate in 2000. So, actually, they started to make some researches on the Pyramid of the Sun and on the Pyramid of the Moon for different reasons. Because, first of all, as you know, in Bosnia, we had a war.
Oh, yes.
So it's we have to be very careful when we are working in field job. So we started to work on the Pyramid of the Sun and Pyramid of the Moon, and actually we really found something. We really found evidence that we have something handmade.
And it's perhaps interesting to sort of actually get a mainstream view of this. And this is a quote from, I'm tempted to say learned journal, National Geographic, but we shall see how they fare throughout the rest of the show. And this is again from sort of around the 2005-2006 time. So, and they basically say, he's been called a Balkan Indiana Jones. Others label him a dreamer, or worse, a pyramid buff with loony ideas. Despite his critics, and he has many, Samir Sam Osmanagic believes he's discovered the find of a lifetime, a series of ancient pyramids in the heart of Bosnia. Prominent... Hello, I'm Alex G, and welcome to On the Edge. Tonight, for the first time, broadcasting to the world. As we are live, it's your chance to interact with us and tell us what you think. And here's Glenda to tell you how.
Text 86686, then text EDGE, leave a space, and then your message. And don't forget, standard network charges apply, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
My guests tonight have joined us from various corners of the world. I have researcher and volunteer Nigel Grace and Sara Acconci, who is the head archaeologist of the Bosnian Foundation of the Valley of the Pyramids. And they're going to give us the latest fascinating discoveries and research on this topic. Now, I should say, Nigel, obviously, we've immediately got Sara's credentials there, and thank you very much for joining us all the way from Bosnia today. But Nigel, what's your background? How did you become aware of the Bosnian pyramids?
6.
Right.
So now it's 5 years that we are going on with these researches, and well, I hope we will go on for a lot of other years.
And I think we've got an image to sort of kick us off. We've got lots of images this evening.
Yeah.
And the first one is number 147, which I note is a snooker score of great deliberation. So here we have that image up for our viewers. So describe what they're seeing there.
Well, this is the valley, Visoko Valley of the pyramids. And, well, when they started in 2005 to make their researches, they were working with a georadar. And they discovered that actually in Visoko we have more than one anomaly. So we're not speaking about one pyramid, but more than one.
Goodness.
So they saw that there are 5 anomalies, so 5 different pyramids. But the main pyramids are the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and the Pyramid of the Dragon.
Right.
And there is a very important connection between these 3 pyramids because actually they are creating an equilateral triangle.
Right.
So,
and that's a genuine, fully geometric triangle.
2.2 kilometers for
On
it's
each
the
side.
distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.